Hello guys, so today we have very special guest Vitalik Buterin, creator of Ethereum, and he's very big supporter of Ukraine, and recently he made his first trip to Ukraine, to Kyiv. Thank you a lot, Vitalik, for the support of my country, support of my people, and you are the true Russian who shows how people should treat and support Ukraine and shows the support to the whole industry. Thank you a lot.
Well, no, thank you so much for the kind words, Anna. I always happy to help in any way that I can.
Yeah, so can you tell more about your trip to Kyiv? How did you like it? How was the conference?
Sure. So the trip to Kyiv itself was fascinating, right? Because I normally go to places by airplane, and it's like, just fairly fast, fairly convenient. But, of course, airplanes are not landing in Ukraine while the war is going on. And so I came in by train from Warsaw. And that was this big, long 18-hour train ride, though it was also the most comfortable 18-hour train ride I've ever had. It was... no, it's I managed to get one of my blog posts finished on it, and I was otherwise just working and sleeping the whole time. And then I got into Kyiv. We stayed at a hotel in the middle of town, and pretty soon after we came, some of the local Ukrainians that were organizing the event came by to say hi. So Alona from Ukraine DAO came by to say hi first. She was also one of the co-organizers, and she's a just very kind of wonderful, excited, kind of joyful, excited person. And so talked with her for a bit, had some food, got a chance to see different parts of the city that day, and the morning of the next day as well. Then had a meeting with Fedorov in the ministry in the morning, and then in the afternoon went to this Kyiv Tech Summit, right? And I think, one of the reasons I wanted to go was just I was fascinated and just was really interested, or really wanted to see what kinds of things would people actually be working on in a tech summit in the middle of a war. What would people say? What kinds of things would people be up to? So I got a chance to talk to some of the hackers, and it was a small group, but it was definitely a very dedicated and group. There were people who were working on blockchain-based projects, trying to do identity for refugees, cryptocurrency-based applications, and just a big long list of different things. And then had a panel with Barnyakov and with some Rev who was organizing the event, and had some just interesting discussions on cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, how those all of these different ideas could be valuable to Ukraine. And I just thought it was just a very good event. It was not a large event, but it still felt like a very high quality event. Everyone who was there knew what they were working on and what they were doing. No one tried to shill cryptocurrency projects to me or anything like that. So no, I was happy. I thought it was a great community.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So can you tell more which projects did you like there? You pitched a couple of projects, and what type of projects do you think are needed during these times of the war?
Sure. So I think the things that seem just useful in the very short term, right? I mean, one is cryptocurrency, right? So the government people that I talked to themselves, they just told me that cryptocurrency was just actually very valuable as a way for the governments to just get resources and supplies that they very urgently needed in the first couple of weeks when the war started, when none of the other financial systems were working, and the foreign governments had not started bringing in supplies yet. And I think cryptocurrency continues to be important to a lot of the different groups, just as a form of fundraising and as a way of moving money to people who need them. Aside from the cryptocurrency as money, I think the identity applications are interesting, right? Because there's a lot of refugees who obviously left quickly, who left and without a lot of things, and who need like some kind of a way to interact with the economy, to prove that they are trustworthy, to prove something about themselves, so that people would be like willing to work with them, and to be able to like give aid and goods and services to them and things like that. And it was interesting to see that like even some of the pretty advanced ideas around zero knowledge stuff that I had been talking about for the last 1 to 2 years, people were starting to even bring in some ideas around that, right? So I think. And then there was also one interesting one, which was trying to integrate the Ukrainian, like the digital ID, so I forget that idea is the name of the platform, right? And one of the things that it's doing is this digital ID system. And there was one group that was trying to create an integration between that into the Gitcoin passport, to basically try to kind of link up this Ukrainian idea with the ID systems that like Ethereum applications are already using. So yeah, like it seemed like a good combination of kind of self-contained applications that were just trying to like do very useful short-term things by themselves, and this sort of stuff trying to kind of bridge the Ukrainian e-government and some of this kind of traditional but also not very traditional world, right? Like this Ukrainian e-government stuff itself is like less than 10 years old, and the stuff that's happening in the blockchain space. So no, I thought it was all fascinating.
Yeah, that sounds really important, and great to see that you visited Ukraine and faced our industry in person. And how did you like generally Kyiv? What places did you have chance to visit? How did you like Ukrainian food? And so maybe how did you like Ukrainian girls?
Yeah, I mean, Kyiv was like surprisingly, it just looked like a very normal European city in a lot of ways, right? Like the government areas were definitely very militarized, and you could see the I don't know what the name is, but like the structures with like the 3 bars intersecting with each other that try to stop tanks, and there are some more like soldiers and like sandbags and the government areas, and there were a lot of posters, be brave like Ukraine, save the heroes from Azovstal, which by the way, congratulations on I saw some of them actually did manage to get back in an exchange last week, so no, that was nice to hear. But aside from that, it just seemed like people were going about their lives, and going for groceries, going to restaurants, working, all of the normal things. And I mean, one of the ways that people described it to me was almost like just the act of continuing to live a normal life in the middle of invasion is like itself a middle finger to Vladimir Putin. So no, I found that impressive. The food was great. Interestingly enough, actually, I think one of the best sushi restaurants I've ever been to was the one in Kyiv. It was called Ikigai, and no, it was somehow it was just all really great. And aside from that, we just had all kinds of food. Also this some Ukrainian, some vegan friendly Georgian place. No, it was yeah, no. I was impressed. I definitely looking forward to coming back next time for longer.
Yes, it sounds like you had a great trip. Was it scary for you when you were in Ukraine that because of the war or not really?
I definitely did not know what to expect, right? Well, like I'm obviously following things on the internet and on Twitter, and like I do theoretically know that Kiev is about 450 kilometers away from the front line at this point. But at the same time, I was not knowing what to expect. Like are there going to be some kind of missile attacks? Like what would the secure, like Ukrainian security itself look like, and just all any kind of very unknown things. But in general, it ended up just being more normal in a lot of ways than I expected. So.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And how do you generally see the development of crypto industry in Ukraine? Like you travel quite a lot, you see different countries, different jurisdictions. On which level is crypto in Ukraine is for you?
Yeah, so the Ukrainian crypto community in general is definitely strong, and I mean, even a lot of the projects that are known internationally, right? Some of their founders are Ukrainian. I think Near is obviously a good example there.
Yeah,
And
so you were on the panel with Ilya in Korea.
Yeah, no, Ilya is great. And then, Ethereum Foundation has a couple of Ukrainians now, and there's just Ukrainians and all kinds of different crypto projects. And so a lot of just very good and very smart developers. And the other thing that's I think interesting and unique is definitely the extent to which the government is like very willing to like participate in these spaces and like try to be very active and forward thinking. It's it reminds me a lot of the trip to Estonia that I had about 5 years ago. I mean, Estonia just really impressed me with e-residency and the e-government, and like in general, talking to the government felt like talking to a startup. And Ukraine really felt like it had a very similar feeling. So the well, I think Eastern Europe in general, right? I had also been to Montenegro recently, and people in Montenegro are very interested in, like even the governments, they're trying to pass this blockchain law and try to like be as blockchain friendly as possible. So, yeah, no, it seems like Eastern Europe is, definitely a place where people like really wants to do things. And I mean, the very active involvement of like even people in institutions and the government is interesting, right? It's like one contrast might be Latin America, right? Where in Latin America, I've also been very impressed by crypto community again, especially Argentina, and but like other places as well. I was just in ETH Mexico about a month ago, and in that case, like you definitely don't see as much government attention. And I mean, in general, I think the government is definitely like not very if like sometimes like not very effective at doing good things, and sometimes too effective at doing bad things. In not in all places, but in some places. But like the crypto communities themselves are still strong despite that. But in Eastern Europe, there's this like interest in participating from like everyone, and like, you know, both the governments and the hacker communities, which is like, yeah, it's an interesting contrast. Like it will be interesting to see what kinds of projects come out of both of those regions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And let's talk about all the things Ethereum. You recently
sure.
achieved just a big milestone, Ethereum Merge, the transition from energy consuming proof of work to proof of stake. So let's start with the question, how did you generally get into crypto? So people who are not aware about your story can discover it.
Sure. So I first got into crypto back in 2011. So I heard about Bitcoin on the internet. I heard about Bitcoin again from my dad, and I thought, okay, this is interesting. Maybe I should, you know, check it out, see what the community is like. So I went on the Bitcoin forum, and I started looking for people that would be willing to give me jobs that pay Bitcoin. And I found someone who was willing to pay 5 Bitcoins, which back then was $4, for every article that I would write for his blog. And so I started writing articles, and so I started my Bitcoin career as a writer. And I started doing this, and then eventually I joined Bitcoin Magazine. I did Bitcoin Magazine for 2 years. In 2013, I dropped out of university and became a Bitcoin person full time. I also started my nomad adventure then. So I started what I thought would just be a 6-month trip around the world to explore all of the different Bitcoin communities. But then around the end of the trip, I came up with the idea for Ethereum, and from then the trip just kept on getting more and more extended. And so I've been sort of on the go for basically like about 9 years now. But you know, I came up with the idea for Ethereum after seeing some of the other ideas that other people had. So people in Israel, for example, who wanted to do colored coins and things like Mastercoin, like try to use the Bitcoin blockchain to do like things other than just Bitcoin the currency. And I found the ideas very interesting. I wanted to make this kind of even more powerful and more general purpose version that people could build any applications on. So started Ethereum, and then the project just kept on growing. And you know, I first released a white paper to a few people in November 2013. Then we made the big announcement in Miami in January 2014, and the amount of attention was just like huge. It was much bigger than any of us expected, and the Ethereum project just kept going from there. So proof of stake really started at the beginning of 2014 for Ethereum, right? So in January 2014, I wrote this paper or this blog post that was, I think, called like Slasher, and some kind of and it was introducing just an attempt at making a proof of stake consensus mechanism. And our ideas around proof of stake kept on improving from there. And at the beginning, that blog post, it came with a disclaimer that basically said, hey, we're just researching proof of stake. We're not yet sure whether or not Ethereum will ever move to proof of stake, or, you know, so, but it might. So don't assume that it will, don't assume that it won't. But then over time, we became more and more confident in proof of stake. And eventually, it's you know, we became very confident, and this like really big development cycle started in 2018, where Prismatic and Lighthouse and all of these amazing teams just started actually building what at the time was called Ethereum 2.0, but then we like rebranded it and you know, stopped talking about Ethereum 2.0 and started talking about the execution layer and the consensus layer. I think like we chose to do that rebranding basically because like people were misinterpreting Ethereum 2.0 as this like really big change that would completely replace Ethereum with a totally new system. But in reality, like it was just a continuation of an existing system, right? Like from the point of a user, if you just downloaded all of the software on time, the merge like barely felt like anything at all, right? It's like before the merge, there were blocks. After the merge, there are blocks. And people, I think, like if you were not paying attention to the internet, like you would not have noticed. It's just the chain was what the chain is before, and then the chain is what the chain is after. I mean, blocks after the merge are slightly faster, and they're more like predictable and regular now. But aside from that, it's just the same chain, the same Ethereum, except it's powered by proof of stake, except being powered by proof of work. So I think a lot of people in the Ethereum community are definitely really happy that this big long project that we've been working on for 8 years is finally finished, and now everyone's eyes are like turned straight to the next challenge, which is solving the scalability problem. So that'll be an exciting thing that occupies all of our attention for maybe the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, so what are your next steps to improve the scalability of Ethereum? What are your next milestones?
So Ethereum's roadmap for scaling is this approach that we call a rollup centric roadmap, right? So it's like a hybrid between a Bitcoin like roadmap, where they basically say, we're not going to change layer one. Layer one is what it's going to be, but we're going to build like second layer things on top, right? So Bitcoin, there's the Lightning Network, and we're basically trying to scale entirely through these like layer two things that plug into layer one, but that work differently, so they add more scalability, versus a more like say EOS or Solana or like that kind of approach to scaling, where basically it's just focused on keeping everyone on layer one, but making the layer one itself as powerful as possible, right? So in the Ethereum community, I think people in general are like okay with compromise and trying to find a middle road. So people don't want the network to become centralized, but people also understands the need for functionality and the Ethereum chain actually being able to do what people want it to do. So this rollup centric roadmap, basically, it makes some improvements to layer one to make it possible to build these layer two protocols that can support many more transactions. And then it's up to the layer two protocols to like actually build the thing that supports those transactions, right? So today there's already a lot of these platforms. There's Optimism, Arbitrum, Scroll, Starknet, ZK Sync, just like a lot of these great teams, Polygon as well, which started as a kind of more trusted and like a little bit more centralized sidechain thing, but they hired these very good zero knowledge teams, and they're kind of on their way to becoming more like a rollup themselves. So those teams have already started, right? The people can already use Optimism and Arbitrum and Polygon and Starknet and these other systems, but they are like the transaction fees on those networks are still like maybe 5 to 10 times lower than they are in Ethereum, but they're not low enough, right? And for Ethereum, there's this EIP called proto-dank sharding, or EIP 4844, that's trying to change the layer one to add more space for data, so that these rollups have more space, and so that transaction fees on those rollups can be like maybe another 10 times cheaper, right? So there's these two tracks that are happening, where layer one is continuing to improve, and these layer two rollup projects are trying to do everything they can to get better.
So you mentioned a lot of all these ZK EVM rollups and different layer two solutions. So what are your thoughts on ZK knowledge proofs and all these ZK EVMs?
No, I think zero knowledge proofs are like a really important and powerful technology, and like I really think that zero knowledge proofs are, as a technology, going to be as important as blockchains, right? Like I think obviously, zero knowledge proofs are really powerful in their ability to add privacy and add scalability to blockchain applications. And the two technologies are very complementary, right? Because blockchains, they give you things like censorship resistance and a guarantee that rules are being followed, for something like a smart contract. But in order to get those guarantees, blockchains sacrifice scalability and they really sacrifice privacy, right? Like by default, you have basically no privacy on a blockchain, but then zero knowledge proofs, they let you keep the censorship resistance and keep the guarantee that rules are being followed, but sacrifice but you get back scalability and you get back privacy, right? So zero knowledge proofs are really powerful for blockchain applications and blockchain scaling, but they are also actually useful in a lot of other, like even non-blockchain applications, right? Like being able to prove things about your reputation, being able to prove things about who you are without revealing, which exact person you are. So a lot of just really good applications in all kinds of areas. So the challenge, though, is that ZK snarks, they are complicated, right? And they're complicated in ways that I think blockchains are not, right? Blockchains, like the simple ones, you can kind of explain the math behind them to someone from high school and they can get it, right? You have blocks, people agree, you have consensus, and in some ways, the math itself isn't too complicated, right? Like, I mean, hashes are very complicated internally, but you can know what a hash is, right? But with zero knowledge proofs, the way that they work is just very complex on the inside. And you need these specialized programming languages to write programs that are the code that the zero knowledge proof is verifying. And you have to convert everything into polynomials, and there's just all of this complicated math that we haven't really fully abstracted ourselves from. And that does mean that it's a whole other layer of a challenge to build zero knowledge applications. I do think that that's improving, right? I do think that there are more and more tools being built that really make it easy and accessible for people to build zero knowledge applications. So things are getting better and better. But I think maybe we still need a couple more years of that. And at some point, we are going to get to a world where we can just start adding zero knowledge proofs to everything. So I'm very excited, but I think there's still needs quite a bit of time, and we still need quite a bit of hard work to actually get ourselves there. But it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I actually noticed that you especially support Scroll quite a lot.
Yeah, no, I think Scroll is, they're a great team. They're, great people. They've been working hard at making the zero knowledge EVM possible. I think the other teams are great too. Like the Starkware team has been working at this longer than everyone else. And, I also have to thank them for just teaching me a lot of the math behind how ZK snarks work. And a lot of the, they contributed a lot to the development of the whole space, and they're also working on Cairo, which is this their own programming language for Starks, and there is a project on top of Cairo that's also making a ZK VM. So, and I think Immutable X and some of the products that they're building, I think they're in a lot of cases, there are very good compromises between full decentralization and a kind of centralization that might be needed to make applications more efficient for the short term, right? I basically think that Starkware's idea of validiums is probably a better thing for institutions to be using than the private blockchains that everyone was excited 5 years ago. So they're doing lots of great stuff. The Polygon team, they've contributed a lot, and their ZK VM development is great as well. They've contributed a lot to Circom, and which is also a programming language that a lot of people use. I have a lot of respect for all of the zero knowledge teams. Loopring's team as well. They had a ZK rollup running years ago when no one else did. I'm very happy with the kind of community that we've built.
Yeah, now seems everybody releases their ZK EVMs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just been amazing how many of them we've seen, and I'm just happy that so many different approaches are being tried. look, hopefully they can learn from each other. Hopefully, we can have 4 or 5 like very strong ZK VMs, and we'll see how far along we get in the next year.